Hello, and welcome to a video demonstration of the Trade Request Notifier app. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth do I need a Trade Request Notifier app? I can just go to Warframe and look here and see if I have trade requests, and if I do, address them as they pop in. Well, the answer is, especially if you only have one monitor, you might not always want to be looking at your Warframe screen. You might want to be doing something else, anything else. And so it's kind of nice to have an application that's just running in the background, checking to see if you have trade requests and letting you know when you do. And that's this guy here. Now I know the interface looks a little bit crazy. That's okay. It's really not too bad. We'll understand it in a second. For now, all we need to do is focus in on this listen for trades box. So if we look inside here, we see it only has one setting. That setting is the interval in seconds. That interval is set to 10 right now. I think that's a pretty reasonable number. So I'm going to hit the start button. And you see that we have started a countdown from 10 seconds. It's going to check in another 5 seconds. It's currently not found a trade request. And it did not find a trade request. So it just rolls over and checks again in another 10 seconds. Not that interesting. However, what if we did have a trade request pending? Well, that'd probably look something like this, right? Except for this guy would be flashing. My Trade Request Notifier app doesn't really care about that, but that'd be the only difference, is that it'd be flashing. And when I click it, you could see, oh, I want to buy this item. So let's go back to our Trade Request Notifier app. I'm going to hit start, and then we're going to watch Pablo.
The invigoration is like plus a crazy amount of health, and then plus 100% ability duration. So I am now Tank Banshee with infinite sonar.
Well, would you look at that? Trade Request Notifier app has sent us a notification. It played a sound to let us know that Dead Be My Dignity wanted to buy some item from us. So you could just address that trade, go about your day, Alt-Tab back in, and restart the search for a new trade. Okay, so what happened? Well, the Trade Request Notifier app found a trade, and it went to this action panel, and it performed all the actions it was supposed to do. So it sent us a sound, it gave us a Windows notification, but it did not send us an email. This is actually a pretty nice pairing of things to do when you're going to be on that computer anyway, but you just don't want to look at the Warframe screen all the time. Because, I mean, you can catch the sound, you can see the notification, but what if you're going to be on a different computer entirely? What if you want to use your laptop or your tablet or something? Well, you can have the Warframe Trade Notifier send you an email. So you have to specify where that email is. I'm going to say fake@email.com. Now the program is registered with my real email address, but I just don't want you to know what that is. So for now, let's pretend like that's it. And I'm going to drop this down to 3 seconds because I think you get the idea. So it's going to check every 3 seconds now. Let's go back in Warframe. Let's say that this guy is the one that messaged me. And let's start to listen for trades. We see we found the trade. An email notification has been sent. And if we hang on for just a second, we should be getting a notification that my email picked up on that trade request notifier. So, incoming trade request has been made. Let's go make the sale. Sure, I will sell you this ribbon. Clear this out. And we could start a new trade request interval where we listen for a new set of trades. Now the cool thing about email is if you have a phone, that phone carrier very likely has free email to SMS. So if you go to this website here, you can find your email to SMS email address. So if we have AT&T, that's this here, your 10-digit number at this address. So let's go back here. Let's say that we are 666 6666 6666 at mms.att.net. We could send ourselves an email here, and that email would get sent to AT&T, who would turn it into an SMS message and send that SMS message to your phone, which would, ring and give you a little notification that says, hey, we have a trade request pending. You should go address that trade request. And so now you can have Warframe ping your phone when you get trade requests, which I think is pretty freaking cool. Of course, that's just receiving the email. You also have to send the email. And that's what this email sender info box is all about. Now, unfortunately, the Trade Request Notifier app doesn't have its own dedicated email sender, but you can make one. It's not that hard. All you have to do, and all I did, was go to gmail.com and register a new email address. And from that email address, I generated application-specific passwords. Now, I want to emphasize that, application-specific passwords, because if you use your regular Gmail username and password, Gmail is going to freak out. Like, Google is just going to completely freak out about you being hacked and stuff. So you have to generate an application-specific password for the Trade Request Notifier app and use that as your password here. Now, obviously these are fake email addresses, but the application knows my real email address. So I'm going to hit this test button. And what that test button is going to do is say, hey, well, where do you want to receive the test email? Once again, we're just going to do a fake email address. But it's going to send to my real one from my real sender. And so in a moment, we're going to check to see if we did get an email. Trade request. This is a test message sent to let you know that things are working. So did I receive it? Yeah, I actually did receive it. And so now my email sender account is verified. And I know that everything should be working. If I were to take an action that involves sending email, it should all just work smoothly now because my email sender information has been verified. Working. So one question you might have is, how does any of this work? How does the Trade Request Notifier app find these trade requests? And the answer is, really it all begins with screenshots. Now, the Trade Request Notifier app is kind of sophisticated in that it's able to take screenshots of whatever's in the Warframe window at any time. And that's regardless of if Warframe is on a different monitor, if it's obscured, even if it's minimized. Like right now, Warframe is completely obscured. Like it's not on a different monitor or anything. It's just completely obscured by all these other windows. Yet if I click this button here, this refresh now, you see that I'm able to get captures of that Warframe window in real time. In fact, if I click the button a lot, it simulates animation, right? It's kind of neat. And if I click this little checkbox here, every time it does a check, it'll also refresh this window with whatever's on the screen currently. In order to do that, it has to know about the Warframe process, and that's what this process menu is all about. Basically what it does is it looks for this Warframe.x64 executable, and since Warframe enforces the fact that there should only be one of these executables running at a time, that's pretty easy to do. From that it extracts the process ID, and from the process ID it's able to get the main window handle. And using that main window handle, it's able to figure out what's on the screen at any given time and get that screenshot so that it can start looking for that trade request. So the only significance of this process window is that it means that if you quit Warframe while the trade request notifier is running and then start up a new instance, that new instance of Warframe is going to have a different window handle. And that's a problem because the trade request notifier needs to know about that new handle, or else it's going to keep trying to use the old handle and it's not going to be able to get those screenshots. And so that's what this little reload button's for. If you were to quit Warframe and then start it up again, just click this reload button and it would pull in the next handle, the new handle, and everything would work well again. So you don't need to restart Trade Request Notifier. If you restart Warframe, that's enough to just use this button here. Okay, so we know that the Trade Request Notifier can take screenshots of the Warframe window from anywhere. So the question is, how does it find those trade requests within that window? And the answer is it looks at a very specific pixel. I call it the magic pixel, as we see here. And it checks to see if that magic pixel is a specific color, this target color. So what's the magic pixel? Well, if I were to go to Warframe, and we'll say that we have this trade request from this guy. Let's take a screenshot here. Let's paste it in here. And the answer is that the magic pixel is right, take a pencil, right here. That's the magic pixel. If we scroll out, we see that that's the first pixel of this window that is not part of its edges. And if you look at very closely at the edge color here, you see that that edge color is kind of a specific different color. I think that the windows in Warframe are especially transparent around these corners because they want to give the window an impression of being slightly more rounded. You see that the corners are very slightly rounded here. And so that's our magic pixel. Now the problem is finding where that magic pixel is. And the reason is because this window is so easy to just accidentally move around, and everyone's going to have the window in a different place. Some people like it on the side. Sometimes you resize it. And so where that pixel is going to change. So I have absolutely no idea how to find where the magic pixel is. But I do know where this thing is. So if you have the trading thing open, I can look at this window and I can find this image of this white trading icon. And so when you find this image, what it will do is it will return the top left corner, the pixel that's in the top left corner of that image. And so I know that the first trade request is always going to start, I believe this is 36 pixels to the right of the top left corner of this little icon here. And I've tested this with multiple resolutions and on different monitors and stuff, and it looks like this is always the same size, the same configuration. And so what the trade request notifier actually does to find the magic pixel is it looks for this icon, it looks for this little icon, and when it finds it, it calculates the location of where the magic pixel is going to be. So what that means is if you ever move that window around, like if I were to move it way up here, I can just click this button here that says reload, and it will take a second because it does have to search the entire image for that new location, and it finds the coordinate of the magic pixel, which has now changed to being 551 to 323. If I were to put it back at the bottom, let's say right around here, and hit reload, it would do a quick search, and it now finds it to be 514, 619 as the magic pixel location. And so that's how you can re-identify where the magic pixel is if you ever accidentally move your little chat window around or the trade request notifier doesn't look like it's working right. Just click that reload button and it will re-find your magic pixel, and it should work a lot better in terms of being able to detect trades again. Now there's just one more wrinkle, and that's that this border, I believe, is not completely a solid color. Like if we look here, I don't believe this border is a solid color. I believe it's still very slightly transparent. And what that means is you can't match against a very specific target color because there's still some transparency going on underneath that's going to change that color. And so to get around that, what I do is I give it a very narrow tolerance around this target color. And if it's within that tolerance, then it's still considered a valid trade. Now, if that tolerance is too wide, what that means is you're going to get some false positives, where you're going to get notified that you have a trade request, but you don't actually have a trade request. So that I have this panel here that looks at what actual color I got versus what the target is, what I think is the correct color, and I believe that the tolerance is about 5 or 6 in any direction. So if you're plus or minus 5 on the R, that's okay. If you're plus or minus 5 on the G, that's okay. If you're plus or minus 5 on the B, that's okay. And if all of those are within tolerance, then it sends off a trade request. Hey, I found a trade request. Now, so that's what this window is for. Is it's a little bit of a debugging window to figure out exactly what the color should be considered and what the tolerance around that color should be, because I want to capture all the trade requests, but I also don't want to send off false positives. Now, again, it's not too bad in terms of the false positives. It does happen, but I've run the trade request notifier checking every 10 seconds for an hour, and I haven't gotten a false positive. And then when I do get a trade request, I do get that trade request right away, so it detects it when it happens. So it's working, but that's the piece of the trade request notifier that's still kind of under active development, is kind of trying to figure out exactly what color this border even is. Okay, so I think that serves as a pretty good demonstration of the trade request notifier. Like I said, it's still under pretty active development. I'm still fine-tuning what the colors are for this border, because heaven forbid that they just be a static color. If you have any suggestions as to how to make this better, one thing that you might want to suggest is new actions. What kind of an action would you like the trade request notifier to perform if it detects a trade request. And how else might you make this better? Feel free to message me, let me know. I have the official link to the trade request notifier in the description, and thank you for watching.